we go. All right, I've got 10:33. Let's see, somebody else is coming in. We'll get the few stragglers.
Hey, Dick Kelly, it looks like your name is Mary Kelly. Do you have an announcement for us?
Yeah, I've grown a beard. No, my computer is busted, so I'm borrowing Mary's.
You can just right click on your own name and change it for the, and it's only a one-time change if you want.
We'll keep him pretty clear. All right, why don't we go ahead and get started. Thank you everybody for attending. This is my first session after Bruce had asked me to take over as moderator. So I hope you will bear with me for any technological issues. I think I've got most of them worked out. I was going to tell you why I had chosen this topic for this morning, and I'm interested in a lot of people making some comments about this because I've never gotten very clean answers. At the last meeting, I showed this. Does everybody have a shared screen on their screen now?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I showed this at Show and Tell. It was they were making mushrooms. They were showing it in the AEW magazine. So I was just playing around, and I had some typical branches of some trees laying around from my yard, and they had all these nice cracks in them. And I said, well, for the first time, I'm going to try and turn it without doing anything to the cracks, though I think I did put a little bit of thin CA glue down in the cracks, but I didn't fill them at all. I was hoping it would just stabilize down deep. But at the meeting, I showed this, and I said, well, I tested it to make sure that it was solid and wouldn't come apart. So I took the branch and I just ran it up to 3,500 RPM. And I was a little shocked that I got about 10 or 15 gasps in the audience, thinking, why on earth would you do that? And I thought it was a pretty good safety measure. Maybe I was wrong. It did not come apart and then turned quite nicely at about between 1,000 and 1,500 for the completion. But I certainly learned some, and I've done some research since and learned about cracks. And I wonder if anybody first has any thoughts about my use of going up to 3,500. I would never do that. This, by the way, is about 2 inches in diameter. So it's more spindle size. I would never do that with a good sized bowl. Any thoughts?
I don't see any problem with doing it that way.
Does anybody think that's a problem with a spindle sized piece of wood?
Well, personally, I think it looks just fine the way it is. As long as it doesn't come off the lathe and come apart in pieces, then it looks great.
Well, that was
either
my issue is, will it come apart?
Yeah, and either with the cracks in it, or if you fill it with resin or turquoise or any kind of inlay. But it looks just fine the way it is, and we go back to the same phrase, beauty is in the eyes of the beholder. And I think it looks very nice the way it is.
And I know you can't, I did not take a picture of the raw wood to begin with. That is the actual bark sitting around the top edge. Would anybody have just tossed this into the fire pile as opposed to turning it?
Mhm.
No, looks like everybody would turn it.
I would not have threw it in the pile. I would. I like to rescue pieces of wood, and but sometimes I will like to put some resin in it to give it some color. But again, it just depends on the turner. What what would you like to do? I like to try doing different things.
Yeah.
The only concern I have is going to 3,500 right off the bat. Don't stand in front of the lathe.
No, great advice, and that's exactly what I did. I stood way off to the side as I turned it up, and I let it run for about 10 or 15 seconds. But I was well off to the side of it.
I know I see, I'm probably the wrong person to comment, but I see cracks like that and all I see is opportunity for epoxy.
And I've done that in the past too. I was, with this being a mushroom, I saw somebody up in Washington State who had done this, and they had a number of them sitting around their garden, and they'd left the epoxy out, and they looked great, and they'd been finished, but they were clearly left outdoors, and over time would just rot away.
Yeah.
Well, that's the easy one to start with. And I'm going to just stay on screen share here. And let's see if I have some things that I pulled up. And some of the first ones I think are probably more obvious. Anybody want to keep turning?
That is a really good candidate for some turquoise or maybe even some resin. Put that in.
My
know-
concern on that one, if I was to continue turning, that crack looks like it goes all the way through it towards the bottom. I think when I see a crack and it gets more towards the bottom and it starts going through it, I kind of stop and then I would fill it.
Yeah, make sure, hang on, make sure I'm on mute.
Okay, Chuck's gone.
That's one I
Wow.
wouldn't take to 3,500 RPM.
Okay, I agree with that.
Bruce, could you turn up your sound a little bit? I can hear other people more than you.
I apologize. I can't. I've had that problem in the past. I'll try to speak up if that's better, but I've not been able to figure out on my computer how to do it. I'll try one more time. Is that any better?
Yeah, thanks.
Okay. Susan, that crack does go all the way through. I think you can see it at the bottom down there. And, I would look at something like this, and I have great fears even about putting epoxy in there, about the adherence, especially if you ran this up to higher speeds. That type of crack is the one that would scare me. And I have another picture here in a minute. Let's see if I can go down if it's the next one. This was a picture, similar type of crack on an even larger piece. What bothers me is there's a crack towards the center going right through the tailstock entry. This particular one is off of a YouTube video. He decided to create a dam and then put epoxy in it and then turned it, and the crack is along that brownish oval along the top. Is my pointer showing up on your computers?
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
Yeah, so this is the crack right there, and wood burned it into a tree so that you don't even see it, and got away with it. But a similar crack going all the way through. And I can't imagine what kind of, I'm hoping, his speed was maybe like 500.
Hey, Bruce, can you go back to your original one of that?
That one?
One more.
Yeah,
There we go. Yeah. When I first saw that and I saw the little splinters up on the top, it kind of reminded me if you put a few lines on it, it looked like the soccer ball in Tom Hanks' Castaway movie, and so forth. And looking at that one there, both of those scare me. That one and the next one to try to turn any farther than they have, because as some of you already mentioned, those are big ones, and that's going to keep that piece is going to keep moving unless you do something with it, put some bow ties in it or something.
So Bruce, you said this crack goes all the way through that bowl. Are there any other cracks besides this one?
this was the only picture I could get of it that really showed it. And right at the very bottom of the screen, I think that you can see that looks like there's a little crack going through. There's just a little remnant of bark there, and I'm not sure if that's a crack down there or not. But even if it didn't, if it only goes halfway through, I certainly have a lot of concerns about that.
Well, if you put epoxy resin in this crack, I wouldn't be afraid to turn it at all after you do that. If you put it in there and put it in the pressure pot and let it cure, you're good to go.
You think that'll fit in a pressure pot?
Oh yeah. Well, I have a big pressure pot. Now I have two of them. You know, I've got the 2.5 gallon one, and then I have a 10 gallon that measures 18 inches across diameter, will fit in, piece of wood will fit in there. So if anybody here listening wants to do something with resin and you need a big pot, well, I've got one.
Let me go back down.
How big is this piece here that we're looking at?
I don't have an exact measurement. It based on the lathe there, it looks like it's probably 12 inches.
Yeah, yeah.
I have taken, yeah. I have taken cracks like this, open them up with my Dremel, put in some epoxy with turquoise, and it worked fine. We're talking about 6-inch bowls all the way through the cracks. I stuffed the cracks with tissue paper, so I only have about half an inch exposed at the top, and fill that up. That works well for me.
What happens then when you turn the inside of the bowl?
Then you have to fill the inside of the crack too. I don't always use epoxy on the inside because that's a lot of work to turn. But that's
fill the outside.
But sometimes you have to. Yeah, with the turquoise. Sometimes, a lot of times, it will go all the way through. But I found too, when I'm turning, you're trying to get all the bubbles out by poking it and things like that. But as you're turning, you do get bubbles. So sometimes I have to put more epoxy in to fill the little holes. But it's worked fine.
So I've done something similar to that. What I just recently did one for Rick. He gave me a piece of wood, wood called yellow desert, desert wood or something like that. Anyway, it had a hole in it and a pretty good size, about size of a nickel maybe. But it went really deep. I put a piece of wire down in there and it went 1.5 inches into the bowl from the side. And so I didn't want to waste the resin. I was using a 30-minute epoxy to put in there. I didn't want to fill that entire cavity. So I put some coffee grounds down in there, just stuffed it down in there until it was about 1/2 inch from the edge of the bowl. after the coffee grounds packed in there, I dropped in some CA glue and made it solid, and then poured the epoxy in there because um, the inside portion of that will be turned out anyway. So I just informed Rick when I gave it to him that there's coffee grounds on the inside there, so it may or may not have adhered, but I'm confident that the outside portion, the last half inch, was going to be solid. So I'm waiting to hear from Rick how that turned out.
Has anyone done that and then turned the inside of the bowl? I mean, what happens when you start hitting that epoxy? I'm assuming that probably you have to do some repairs. The epoxy may not be as clean as the outside.
I've done it on other pieces where the repair was all epoxy on the inside, and it was fine.
Okay.
It turned just no problems at all.
What I found in my research going through cracks is that they really come in three types. And you can get these radial cracks like this coming out from the center of the tree. You can get the cross-sectional cracks, which we just looked at, and then you can get radial cracks, and we'll come to those in a minute. Is this as bothersome? Would people turn this?
Dick, didn't you talk about one that you tried to turn like that one time with the radial crack?
Who are you talking to?
You, Dick. Dick
Oh,
Kelly.
well, yeah, no, it presented more like a regular bowl blank. Yeah, and for those who didn't see it, it came apart and left this. Let's see, where's this camera? It came apart and tossed that my uh, into my face shield. And I have a note on the back of this. I wrote, "A very good day, 11/27/12. I was wearing my face shield." I didn't always, just being a hobby turner, but this time I did, and it took a nice little nick out of what would have been the middle of my nose. And those are very sneaky, those radial cracks, because you can't really see them. They aren't open. It's just a separation between the rings in the blank, and it's caused by like maybe the way the tree moves when it's growing, when the wind will hit it, and over time it'll weaken a certain joint between the rings, and poplar is bad for that, and maybe cherry. I was turning cherry, but yeah, that's my story with it. And it just looked like a regular bowl blank.
And Dick, were those cracks coming out from the center radial like this, or more between the rings?
It's between the rings, which makes it very hard to spot.
Yeah. Yeah, this particular bowl, this turner decided to go ahead and turn it without repairs, and that's what he ended up with.
Mm-hmm.
And you can see there's a fairly good crack, but it's on the outside, and looks like probably a wormhole or something in the center that it held together, and it's going crossways across the grain at the bottom rather than with the grain, but held together without a problem.
Mhm. Yeah, I usually, I almost always buy my kiln dried blanks, and they're pre-selected for me not to have any cracks. Uh, One of my early teachers was, and somebody may have already said this, uh, was John Jordan, the guy who over in Tennessee who died just relatively recently. And his motto was, "Life is too short to turn crappy wood." So I took that to heart, and when I turn, I when I work on the lathe, I don't really just kind of turn to meet the challenge of any root ball that comes my way. I usually have a design in mind, and I will turn on a blank, a regular kiln dry blank that will uh, meet the requirements of that design. So I don't run into a lot of cracks. I avoid them.
All right, I think I have a couple more examples here.
Mm-hmm.
This was an example kind of that we started with. You can see the crack going right along here, and this turner made good progress. There was no repair made to that crack. Thought it was stable. There's the crack being shown, and you can kind of guess what happened.
Oh my.
That when it gets turned around, once you started on the centering from inside, you got the outside done. But yeah, that's a good chunk of wood that comes flying out. So that's a good example to avoid those cracks that are really going across the whole bowl. It's not truly a radial crack at all, and it's not a center crack either.
So Bruce, I have a comment. So can you go back to that screen that you were on just a minute ago with it broken? Okay, so I look at things like this as a challenge. So let me tell you what I would have done with this one if it were mine. I would have take it um, take it off the lathe, of course, and put it on the floor and get a chisel, a big chisel, and finish breaking the other piece to where it's cracked there, and break that off too, and maybe even another one somewhere, and the more solid piece of it. Just break it apart, and then put it in a bowl, and then pour resin over it. Um, like I say, I look at that as a challenge. What can I do that's going to be different from every other bowl that we turn? I just like the challenge and try some different colors. So that's my take on it. I want to see what can I do with it. So I don't know, maybe other people might think that it's too much work to do that, but um, that's just my thought.
Other thoughts?
Mark, I, I, I don't disagree that, or say it's too much work. I think it comes down to with every piece that we put on the lathe, what do we want to make out of it to begin with? What form are we going for? I think sometimes myself, I'll find a piece of wood and I try to work around a part of the piece of wood that looks really cool and try to form my piece around that, and wind up spending 3 or 4 or 5 hours working around a quote pretty spot in the wood, and then I wind up with a form that will sit out in the garage most of its life and not come into the house. And those are personal choices that you make.
Now I would, it's got a good center point. So I'd cut it into wedges, separate the wedges and turn it into a segmented bowl, fill it with resin.
That's interesting.
Would anybody be concerned about this crack right along here? It's on both sides. Would you take that off too, Mark? With your chisel?
Well, that's where I was talking about where I'd put the chisel in there. I have some
Right
big
in here.
chisels. Yeah, right in there. And I was trying to point it. My pointer doesn't show up on the on the screen, but so yeah, that's where I was talking about. Put that chisel down in there and just hammer it with a small sledgehammer and just break it apart. And then before I put it in the bowl, what I left out is I would clean it off, clean the pieces of wood. I have a big wire brush that a wheel that I put on the lathe and just clean it off real good.
Yeah.
And then put it back in a bowl and then pour the resin over it and let it penetrate all everywhere. So
And I take it, Mark, that you're gonna have that other piece that flew off, you're gonna kind of approximate it back to the side, so you have a line of epoxy going through the whole bowl.
yes, and that's the point. And I would even I'm gonna for the demo coming up on later this month and on the club, I'm bringing a bowl that I'm working on. I want the cracks to be prominent. In other words, if you break it apart, this particular piece, if you break it apart and then put it in a bowl, it will go back together and you only have hairline cracks. I want the cracks to be widened. So on the very top of the bowl, I
Okay, she just
oh on the very top I put some coffee stir sticks and glue them down to keep those cracks apart. You know, and because I want those that colored resin to show up in the final bowl. So, and I'll show that in the demo
Okay, that's interesting.
Saturday. Yeah,
Yeah, that'll be good to see.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
A person who it would be nice to have here, who gets a lot of mileage out of the pattern of the cracks in his turning is Larry O'Brien, with those big star shapes on the sides of his uh, hollow forms from the way he mounts them and then exposes them.
yeah, I had the same thought, Dick. I emailed Larry and asked him if he had time to come on to this morning's discussion, because some of his pieces are really demonstrative of what you can try to do with cracks that are not filled. Here's one again, similar to the first one we saw. I'm assuming people recognize the problem. What impressed me about this is it looks like the tailstock is going right into the crack. This one I think is right for your therapy, Mark. Break it in half and put it back together. You just have to put a new tenon on it.
Yes, you would. But if anybody tries doing something like this, you really should clean out those cracks. I get a dental pick and clean those out, and sometimes even a Dremel and just poke down into those cracks and clean all that loose stuff out of there.
You don't think this is one you'd chisel in half and put it back together?
I think I probably would. You know, I can't see the whole thing, but I probably would. But again, it's just the opportunity to create something different. And
Do Do you have any examples there, Mark, of the pieces you've done like that?
I have one in resin right now that but I haven't turned it yet, and I can go get that and show you what I'm talking about, that
Bring
I've
it to the
done.
demo.
I could do that, but, I could go to my workshop and get that and show you what I did.
Okay. Let's see, this is the one picture I found of a true radial crack between the rings. Dick, I think this is what you were talking about.
Yeah, another name for that is a shake, like a milkshake, but a shake is the term if you want to see more of that. Yeah, that's a nasty one, isn't it?
Is there anything redeemable about it?
I don't know. I'm not experienced in using epoxy at all. Uh, Mark might have an idea about the same process that he's using, where he will be putting a piece in a pressure pot. Uh, but yeah, I don't have any experience with doing that. I'd stay away from it.
Yeah, because this looks like it's separated almost 270 degrees.
Yeah,
And I certainly don't have any faith that that segment is intact.
well, the one from 1 o'clock to 6 o'clock, that segment looks like it's just gonna come right off.
Yep. Mark, while you were gone, we were showing this. You ever play with something that nasty?
Yes, I have.
And it stayed
Um,
together with epoxy?
Once again, resin, I would take on something like that. And if a piece of wood is not particularly good, like maybe pine or something like that, I probably wouldn't do it. But if it's nice wood, piece of pistachio, olive, walnut, maple, something like that, then yes, I'd take it on, and make it work. So let me show you this one that I went out to the workshop to get. This one is,
Hey, Mark, just a second. Let me see if I can get you to speaker view. Bruce, how do I get him onto speaker view now? Is Bruce Butler still with us? Yeah,
Yeah,
he's still with us.
hang on a minute, hang on. Well, I'm on the phone with Spence. What do you need, Bruce?
Oh, to enlarge Mark's view, he's going to show us something.
Go up to view in the upper right corner
Oh, got it. Here we
and
go.
go to speaker.
Okay, we're on it. Mark?
And then
see
when
if
he
that'll
talks,
show-
it should show up just him.
Yeah, and that's for everybody. You have to do
Right.
that.
So if everybody switches to speaker view, the piece he shows us will show up larger.
Got it.
okay, is it working?
Mark, go ahead and talk.
Okay, so this is a piece of maple, or you can see from my little sticker here. Let me take this off here. I put labels on these because once it's once it's in resin, sometimes I forget what they are. Okay, so this was a piece of maple that had several cracks in it. So like I explained before, I put it on the floor and just finished breaking it, and so that the cracks go all the way through the piece of wood. And you can see on the bottom, um, the cracks are all the way through. So I wanted the resin to penetrate the entire bowl. Okay, so what you see on the top, maybe you can't see that there's some dark lines or witness lines that when I broke this apart in several pieces with the piece of wood all lined up together, witness line, so that when I put it back in the bowl, I can know where the pieces go. And then once it's in the container, to keep those pieces of wood apart, these are coffee stir sticks that you get with like Starbucks or something, you know, and I laid them up on the top and then hold them down, put some CA glue to keep those pieces of wood apart. I didn't want the wood to go back together. Okay. So, and then pour the resin over it. These are obviously stuck there, but they'll be turned off when, and then on the side over here is some little popsicle sticks there and over here to kind of hold it into the center of the vessel. This particular resin, I don't remember what the name of the color is, but it's kind of a reddish orange color, and it has some swirls in it. I think I put some silver pearl mica powder in it and some interference red mixed with it just to give it a little dimension. I don't know if you can see it, but right up in here, there's some little swirly stuff. It's going to look nice when it's finished. So
And Mark, I'm sorry, that coloring is mica powder?
yes.
Yeah.
Mica powder. You can also use a liquid pigment coloring, and yeah, it's kind of like dye, but it's made specially for resin. But that's what I did with that one. Any questions on anybody might have? Okay.
Just out of curiosity, I just came across this recently. I'd never seen a piece like it. Somebody was using glitter instead of mica. You ever tried glitter?
Yes, I just turned a ice cream scoop that, and I'll bring that on when I do the demo. So the glitter, unfortunately, it didn't really come out um, very good for me. It mostly just floated to the bottom, you know. So I have to figure out, and I got to get with Jay to help me with how can I keep that glitter all the way through. Um, so I don't know everything there is to know about resin, um, but anyway. But yeah, it's. I've heard people putting confetti type stuff in with the resin too.
Okay.
And Mark, will you have the bowl that you showed us with the coffee stirs? Will that be completed by the time? Yeah, that one. Yeah, will that be completed for us to see when you do your demo?
Probably not.
Okay.
Yeah, I have some other ones that I will not like this, but I have some other stuff that I did. I put some olive wood in resin and turned it, but what I
Okay.
will do, I will bring this at a future meeting when I finally do
Mhm.
finish this one, and another one that I'm working on. So I'll bring those at a future meeting.
Okay, it'll be interesting to see it now that we've seen how it started.
Right, to get a before and after
Mm-hmm.
the viewing.
All right. I'll go back to a couple more examples here. Let me hang on just a second. Here's an interesting crack issue. All right, I already know what Mark would do.
Yes, I was just thinking that piece of wood is screaming, put resin in me. That would look beautiful with some resin. Do you
Yeah,
happen to know what kind of wood that is? It kind of looks like oak.
I don't, but it's such an amazing pattern. I have never used the stabilizer like cactus juice. Is this a piece for cactus juice or that won't work here?
Well, I would need to see the piece of wood. If it's punky, definitely, I would put cactus juice in it. But it's a good candidate to put in the vacuum chamber with cactus juice.
Will cactus juice fill the cracks?
No,
Not typically.
no, it will not fill the cracks. That's a misnomer. A lot of people think it will, but it won't. All it does is solidify the fibers of the wood where there's punky wood or soft wood. I'll be talking about that in the demo on our Saturday meeting.
So this is a piece after you put it in the oven, you're going to have some drainage that won't fill out of the cracks with cactus juice with the stabilizer.
Well, what happens is it the cactus juice fills the fibers and goes into the wood and just sits there. And then after you take it out of the vacuum chamber, you have to put it in a toaster oven or some kind of oven and heat it up to 300. No, it's 200 degrees for about 3 hours. 200 degrees for 3 hours, and then that um, bakes it, if you will, into the wood. So if there is anything um, um, left over that drains out, it's just going to go onto a tray in the bottom of the toaster oven.
Can you do epoxy after that?
Yes, this is a precursor to resin because those cracks that you see in this example won't be filled. So the vacuum chamber forces the liquid, the cactus juice into those fibers, and it's not going to fill these cracks.
Yeah. All right.
But Bruce was right. It's not gonna fill those cracks.
Yeah. This was another interesting wood of all radial. There is some looks like some, I call them arcuate cracks, through here as well, but would be fascinating if it got filled with epoxy.
Now, are these all your pieces of wood, or are these
No,
just something you found
these are
online?
examples that I found just doing some research on it.
Oh, okay.
No, I wish that piece was mine. That would be fun to deal with, though. I'm concerned about the crack right there going up right through the center as to whether this whole thing would hold together. As long as epoxy got down and adherent way down into the crack, it would probably be okay. Would anybody, again, just not even consider this?
Yeah, to me, that's a piece I would pitch to the burn pile.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't have the capability to fill that with epoxy, but that looks really nice. Some of those radial cracks, depending uh, on where your outer circumference of the bowl is going to be, some of those radial cracks might uh, cause a problem where they bridge the or
Like
some of the
this here,
shakes.
like this here that connects some of those cracks.
Yeah, like that. If you've got the this is confusing. I've got uh my pointer going and that, but yeah, I'd be concerned about that, but it's a really nice design. I'd like to see it done with a colored epoxy in those cracks.
The other thing is if you take a look at that picture and start to think about what's going to happen when you hollow it, take about a 1/4 of an inch band anywhere around there, and all you've got is cracks going through it. So if you want to turn that without filling with epoxy, you may want to consider a flak vest.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I would ever want to attempt that without some kind of sealant or something to stabilize that wood. That's virtually, with all these radial cracks around here, it's going to come apart. All right, I think I just have a couple more. This is a different kind of, I mean, we've all seen this. It's more of a burl. It's not true cracks. And I think, you know, we all enjoyed what that can be. I look at that and that doesn't concern me at all. There's nothing that's a straight line crack that extends out. It's just more the appearance of the burl. Would that concern anybody?
Not a bit.
Should I be
No,
concerned?
that looks good.
Yeah. Can you turn that at a higher speed?
I would.
I wouldn't be afraid to turn that at a high speed. I don't see any major cracks that go through the wood and make it come flying off of the lathe. But I like the natural look. I don't, uh, contrary to popular belief, I don't think resin is good for everything. You know, I like the natural look, and you've got holes to go all the way through. And I really like the lower right hand portion of the color, what picture where there's looks like maybe some bark still in there. That's very natural. And it looks like some wormholes in there. So um, I think it's a beautiful piece. Gorgeous.
Yeah. That's kind of what I thought. That one does not scare me like the other ones do.
Right.
And I think this is just a little bit more close up that, again, I don't really, these are more just natural aspects of the burl. I don't think that those are cracks. Would anybody be more concerned that those represent instabilities?
Those look like wormholes to me.
Yeah, that's what I think too.
But I definitely, when I was turning that, I would definitely, if there's any residue left over from the wormhole, you know, what they leave behind, I would definitely clear that out with a dental pick or a Dremel or something, get that out of there because it tends to be a little softer than the surrounding wood.
And this one was a little different. I mean, these are look like cracks and not wormholes. It's a relatively thin. It's going to be a platter, a relatively thin piece. And I think there's another picture of it. No, I don't have another picture of it. That's all I've got. I guess as you turn this down on the inside and thin the wall down, that starts to concern me more. Would you turn that without filling it, just have the decorative aspect?
Were you speaking to me, Bruce?
Oh, anybody?
Oh,
Anybody turned anything like that?
I think it depends on the type of wood, whether it's would work, whether I'd feel comfortable with it, because certain woods have more of a possibility of tearing apart, and some, like mesquite, would still hold together even with cracks.
Yeah, you can see here on the edge that this is part of the original piece. That was not a crack. That you can see it up in here as well. I thought I had a picture of the final one there. I apologize. I must have missed that in going through it. That would, as long as it doesn't go out beyond the edges, as I got deeper down into it, I don't think I'd be overly concerned unless the crack took on different characteristics when you opened it up. It almost has an appearance of some irregular graining through here. Oh, I don't want to call it burl, but that it would hold together.
It seems like a lot of times when we're turning, as we're cutting into the wood, it releases some of the fibers so that we do get cracks as we're turning. And it depends on, like I say, on the type of wood, whether I feel uncomfortable or if I have to stop and use CA or some epoxy on it. But I prefer the natural wood as much as I can. But that's just my opinion on that. Some of these I would not attempt. I haven't done resin like Mark has a lot. I just like to, there's so much wood to choose from. I prefer something I can make it through without too many repairs anyway.
That one is also going to be a bit of a challenge because that piece missing, you're going to have a balance issue.
Yeah.
But that adds to the character perhaps. So it's kind of like off-center turning if depending on how it would turn out.
Yeah, as long as you can get it turned, that would be a nice feature.
All right. I think the only other one I put on here just because I hadn't seen it done before. We've talked at previous chips and grits about repairs, and I had never seen that repair before, so I just threw it into the mix. It would be interesting when it got turned how those dark dowels are going to look through the piece. Could add a lot to it. Anybody tried dowel repair? Have you done butterflies? But what about doweling like this?
I've done doweling on flat work, but never on something I've turned.
Well, if you take this and obviously you got to cut it square, cut it right here. So you got two dowels. You could even put a third in here. And the dowels go all the way through. Would you be overly concerned about turning that as long as the dowels stayed intact? You'd have to put them at a depth that they didn't get turned away.
well, let me make a comment about that, Bruce. I think it's a great idea that they put these dowels, especially contrasting colors, wood through there. But if you turn this on its side and then turn it, cut it into smaller pieces, I think, you're still going to have a crack. So I'm curious what this particular person wanted to do. Did they want to just turn it with a crack unfilled, or was it their idea to put some resin down in there? So I don't know. It just makes me wonder what they were
That seemed
thinking.
to be the intent, is to leave it as a decorative piece, though, I can't swear one way or the other what the intent
Right.
was.
Yeah, you're right, Mark, because if you would turn that dowel out and hollowing,
Right.
you've now got two pieces.
Yeah, and that's my point is, what was the intent here? What were they doing? I personally would, as everybody suspects, would put some resin in there. I would dam up the ends, turn it on its side, dam up the ends, and then pour resin into it. In addition to the dowels, because I don't see it staying together otherwise.
Oh, no, no, not without some kind of protection. That's gonna come apart.
Right.
All right, well, that's all I've got for some pictorial aspects. Let me stop this.
I guess my question is, though, the world before resin was invented, would any of you have turned some of these things, especially Mark, if in the world before resin? Because it sounds like the answer to most things is to use resin or epoxy or something to hold things together. So looking at it from that standpoint, are some of these ones that you would not have attempted, but now today you do? Is that the way the answer would be to that?
I think you're right, Kathy.
I think a lot of pieces probably ended up in the burn pile, like we have discussed before. Okay, this one broke apart in the burn pile. I don't have a wood burning fireplace, so I just give my pieces to Dan Hall. Anything that I'm gonna toss out. So he has a little potbelly stove that he uses in a workshop. So
Otherwise, I guess it would be segmenting and wood glue would be the main ways to hold things together in the past. Is that correct?
I would think so. Yeah.
What about banding?
What do you mean?
Put like nylon packing tape around the outside so that it's held together. Some people use duct tape.
Yeah,
And,
definitely will leave a residue, but we've used the packing tape like they use at U-Haul to hold some things together on the lathe for periods of time, but that's usually for finishing or things like that to make sure it doesn't come off the cold jaws.
But you
That
have to
would
turn it that way.
that would hold it together while you're turning it. But what about when you take it off the lathe? And if your whole reason for banding, what's going to hold it together? You got to have some way to hold it together, and either CA glue or resin or something, or maybe somebody suggested earlier bow ties. Putting some bow ties in there might be a possibility.
Yeah, well, I agree with Kathy. I kind of like the natural look of cracks as long as they're not going to hurt me when I'm doing it. And so, you could band it and leave certain cracks open. I mean, I don't want a really unstable piece. I'm not going to do that with something large. So the outside kind of gets turned first and even finished. So that kind of helps with the residue problem of the tape. But that can keep the features. And these are pieces that are already together, Mark, that have not come apart yet.
Yes.
We did it.
Kathy, you're muted.
Since Philip Bird is on here, I wanted to show one of his pieces that he did for Beads of Courage, if I may. So this is one, and Philip, you can talk a little bit about how you do it, how you did it if you want. I don't know if my light's good, but he had a few cracks in it. I like the smiley face of this one, actually. This is all, let me close this blind, maybe that'll help. There we go, maybe. Anyway, he used the turquoise in it. And then on the inside, he has a different color that he's actually put into part of it. But some child that receives this will really like, I think, the smiley face on it. But he had several things that he actually did put the turquoise. Is this turquoise or is it, what's the what's the other thing that's
Inlace.
inlace? Yeah. So Philip, how did you do this?
That's turquoise with epoxy.
Oh, turquoise and epoxy. Okay. And then on the inside,
Yep,
yeah.
brushed turquoise.
Oh, okay.
I think I just put some wood filler, but I'm not really sure. I might have put something else in there.
Yeah, there's a couple different colors. It makes it interesting. So, but anyway, it wasn't going to come apart, but it makes a nice feature on the bowl with those things on it.
I
So,
think, is that sycamore?
you wrote ash.
Oh, that kind of wood always cracks.
Yeah.
Ash, okay. That always has cracks too.
Anyway, some child will like this bowl for sure. I like the smirky face on it. So.
Mhm.
That's a great bowl.
Spence, your buddy from the symposium, Kelly Dunn, does a lot of Hawaiian shaped bowls, and he gets a lot of mileage out of the butterflies. And the Hawaiian term for them is Pewas, Pewa. And he does repairs for old ones that have come apart, and he incorporates them into a new design. They have some wood like koa that if you get any kind of piece at all, it's so well regarded that it's good to do whatever you can to be able to turn it. And so he's got jigs and makes the Pewas, and he'll do 8 or 9 in a bowl just to hold it together.
How do you make the hole where you're going to put that bow tie or PY in? How do you create that in the wood?
Well, it's got, he has a router, and he has a little plastic pattern that he uses with a router, and then he will use a carving gouge, just a straight carving gouge to clean up the corners.
Is a carving gouge, is that like a hand tool after you use the router?
Just like a chisel.
Okay. Thank you.
All right.
I just wondered if you could use other shapes besides butterflies. Like, could you do a lizard or something? I think it'd make it interesting.
Oh yeah, once you get into it, I think that there are people who make those little plastic patterns, and you can go shopping around, and you can find your own signature shape.
It's all a function of how much time you want to spend.
Mm-hmm.
Is something like that commercially available, or they're making it just for their own use?
I think if you get online, you can probably find commercial kits. I know for just the straight bow tie shape, those are available commercially. I think the other ones are more a craft industry.
Okay. Anybody have other thoughts about cracks we haven't talked about, of what you would attempt or walk away from? I'm glad stories of injuries are few and far between.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yeah, only one big story of that. Thank you, Bruce, for moderating this and starting a new trend here with your turn to be the moderator for. And
right.
Thanks, Bruce, other Bruce Butler, for your years to do it too.
Thank you, everybody, for attending. We'll announce a new topic for next month then. We're just beyond our hour, so we'll try to keep it on time here for the most part. I'd appreciate any feedback. If you like this kind of format, let me know, or any other changes, and we'll launch into the year.
Don't forget to stop the recording.
That's just what I